everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am back with my November wrap-up. I cannot believe how quickly this year is going. So I'm gonna jump straight into the books. I have read a lot more than I honestly thought I was going to read this month, and a lot of it was digital. As predicted, a lot of my library holds came through for me. So I'm just gonna start at the beginning and work my way through. Firstly, I finished the last of my Victober reads in the first couple days of November, and that was listening to The Prime Minister by Anthony Trollope, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I believe I gave more in-depth thoughts on it on my Victober wrap-up, but oh my goodness, that ending. Anthony Trollope loves to go with genre changes. The further into his series I go, I think this is going to be a very cozy family drama, and then it takes a left turn into a genre that I did not expect, like a mystery or a Russian novel. And those are quite shocking, but also kind of fun. I'm so sad that I only have one Sir Timothy West audiobook left to listen to, which is the final book in this series, The Duke's Children. So I'm definitely saving that for the new year at some point, but very much looking forward to it when I get there. Then, speaking of series, I finished the first novel and first novella in the Forsyte saga. So those were The Man of Property and Indian Summer of a Forsyte. And I have to say I really enjoyed them. They are very introspective, which I know is not for everyone. But if you read them as almost Virginia Woolf-esque, you get incredible insight into characters. However, I've been reading these with the anticipation of watching the new show that Channel 5 and PBS are co-producing. It has Eleanor Tomlinson. I've been craving a Poldark fix. I'm thinking this is absolutely perfect. The screenwriter from Poldark, Debbie Horsfield, is working on the Forsytes as well. But I have to say, from the trailers, it looks completely different to what I've been reading. So if you have read more of the Forsyte series, let me know. Do I need to have read more of the Forsyte saga before I start watching the new series? Because I can't make up my mind on that one. Then around my birthday, I have a superstition that the book I pick up should bring me joy or somehow mirror things that I want to bring into my life in that new year. So I picked up Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood, and this was indeed cozy and charming and really quite lovely. This tells the story of Bella, who has just turned 30, loves working in the bookstore, but her new boss is making life a living hell and taking away everything that makes the bookshop special. On top of which, she discovers that she has to go through basically a certification process for being a witch when she turns 30 to prove that she has been using her magic well. And it turns out the council do not agree, so she has 30 days to master a variety of subjects to try and earn their approval back and not lose her magic for good. And along the way, she goes on a huge process of self-discovery, which was really nice, very charming, very relatable for anyone around my age. I wish the romance plotline had been developed a little bit more. I feel like it was hyped up a bit more in the descriptions that I was reading, but it was still very sweet, very charming, and I'm intrigued to see if book 2 builds on this story or if it's completely separate. Now let's get into those library holds. The first one that came in for me was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I have heard nothing but fabulous things about this for ages, and it did seem like something that was going to be very up my street. It's set in a Victorian or Victorian-esque society, by which I mean late Victorian Edwardian, but still. And we have a woman in academia who is trying to write definitive papers on a variety of different fairies. But her smug, handsome coworker always pips her to the post, and she is very annoyed about this and his shoddy worksman and his shoddy workmanship on his own papers. But they end up teaming up together on a quest in an Icelandic-ish society, and adventures unfold from there. It sounded like everything that I should love, but I just didn't. It may have been the period in my life I was in. I was having my own health problems and having a family health emergency, and it was just a rough week all around. So that may have colored my judgment, but I just felt like all the wrong bits were developed and a lot of other things were left underdeveloped. Especially the romantic plotline. I had seen so much about the romantic plotline that develops, and it really came out of nowhere and never went anywhere by the end of the book either. Maybe it improves in future books in the series, but I don't know. There was just something missing for me, and it just fell a bit flat. Meanwhile, I finally got to listen to Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave by Ella Cosimano, which is book 5 in the Finlay Donovan series of contemporary mysteries. So I can tell you almost nothing that happens in this one because every book ends on some sort of cliffhanger, so we are well into the saga of Finlay Donovan's life at this point. But Finlay Donovan is a writer who has also stumbled into a life of crime by accident and is trying to cover it up, but something always happens that threatens to expose it to her family, the police, and her now boyfriend, who is part of the police. Yeah, things happen from there. These are ludicrous plots. This one actually kept the plot very simple and very quiet, which took me by surprise, but I wasn't unhappy about it. I did figure out quite early on approximately what was going on, but the tension was still kept up because then it was a question of how is Finlay going to deal with this? How is everyone else going to deal with this? And that part did not disappoint. It wasn't my favorite, especially this particular ending cliffhanger was definitely not my favorite, and I need it to be March already so I can listen to book 6 and make sure that everyone is okay. But I adore this series, and I highly encourage you if you need something light to make you laugh and give you a little bit of a pick-me-up. Then I also read the contemporary romance, Is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins. This was recommended to me by my dear friend Amanda, and after 9 months, it finally came in for me. So I finally read it. I wasn't sure what to expect going into this, but it was delightful. We are following a woman who is recently divorced, and her ex-husband seems to be moving on with his life very quickly, much to her annoyance. She claims that she is perfectly happy in her life. She does not need to try dating again. Her children are wonderful, she has a lovely house, her sister is in her life, and she loves her job. Except for, once again, her arrogant, handsome coworker who always criticizes her articles. However, the magazine is soon to be taken over by another company, and to show that they have fresh new content that appeals to the young people, Sophie volunteers to start writing a column about dating, especially dating in your mid to late 30s. And so does her annoying coworker, and they are in competition with one another, and you can guess where this is going. However, Amanda recommended it to me not only because it's very sweet and beautifully drawn, and the characters are beautifully complex and realistic, but also because it takes place in Bath, and I loved my time in Bath, and I desperately want to go back. So this was a little opportunity for me to go back and revisit Bath in my head. And as of right now, I am filming this on the 29th of November. I am in the middle of 3 books most of which I will probably finish within the next week or so. But I am also going to be incredibly busy over the next week or so. So here we are. The first of them is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, which is much more of a chonker than I thought it was going to be, but I am now over halfway through, so that's a good sign. This is a historical romance featuring a trans heroine, and it is fabulously done. I am loving it so much so far. I love the way all of her coming outs have been handled. I love the way it looks at the complexities of that, and also the way it looks at the complexities of PTSD and addiction, all in very Regency appropriate ways, but also in ways that still feel quite contemporary. And I cannot wait to see where this plot goes because I love this so much. I am also listening to Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. I'm not loving it as much as The Hacienda, but I'm only a third of the way through. It could get more exciting, I will let you know. And I also should be reading Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop by bo-reum. Yes, I remembered their name. Which I've been waiting for months as well, and that hold has finally come in. Unfortunately, I'm loving A Lady for a Duke so much that I can't tear myself away to read that one, but I will be doing a lot of driving and waiting around movie theaters and on trains this coming week, so I will probably read that book then. If you want to hear full thoughts on those last three, however, please come back in my December wrap-up when I will tell you what I actually thought about them once I got to the end, and if my thoughts so far have changed. And let me know down below what were some of your favorite reads of the month, or do you have any recommendations for me based on what I said I loved? If you have read and watched the current Foresight saga, please let me know. Should I go ahead and watch it, or should I read more of the books first? Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.